Multitasking, us guys are not very good at doing that. So when I started this role back 10 years ago, I always thought that the most important thing was to grow membership. And indeed, we have grown membership quite significantly over that time. But I've realized now, as I've been in post for so many years, that it's much more than that. We have a responsibility as the leading worldwide professional body for marine surveying to actually disseminate information and to try and drive the standards up, I think, across the whole industry. And we can do that. Obviously, there are benefits of being a member, but even if you're not a member, there's still plenty of things you can do with IIMS and get involved. So I've titled this presentation, The Value and Role of IIMS in a Rapidly Changing Maritime Landscape. And it's an absolute fact that things are shifting around us so fast now. You're going to hear from Nick Parkin later about artificial intelligence. Indeed, I gave a presentation in Baltimore, America, to a group of marine surveyors over there just 2 weeks ago, who are completely oblivious to AI, which I was astonished, seeing as a lot of it comes from America, but they were absolutely blinded by all of this stuff. And it's going to have a massive impact on our lives, just as individuals, but it's also going to have a huge impact on the life of the marine surveyor. And I know Nick will talk about that later, and I'm quite excited about that. But for now, settle back and I'll try and give you a bit more background to what IIMS is currently up to. For those of you who don't know, we were founded in 1991. We're headquartered on the UK South Coast. If you know England, we are between Portsmouth and Southampton. I'll show you a picture of our head office in a minute. Our membership hovers around 1,000. Some months it's just over, some months it's just under. We have a churn rate each year of about 3 to 4%. We have noticed quite a lot of people retiring over the last 12 months, but we've always got a lot of new member applications coming in. Typically, we'll process between about 120 to 150 new applications a year. We are governed as an organisation by a management board, which is 15 strong. That's drawn from big ship surveyors, small craft surveyors, workboat surveyors from all over the world. And it gives a very balanced view as to what we do. And we have various committees who are involved in the other specific management of departments of the business. Currently, we have 230 students studying. They are on our distance learning professional qualification, which we operate from my head office in Portchester. I think we punch well above our weight. There are 11 of us at head office. We all work exceedingly hard. And one of the reasons that IIMS is successful is because of the people who support me at head office. They do a particularly wonderful job. So one of the things that I've sought to do over the last 10 years is to build an awareness of brand IIMS. I think when I arrived 10 years ago, there were some inherent problems with the business. We were financially not in a good situation. We didn't have a lot of money in the bank, and it was difficult to do things. Peter says, am I sharing my PowerPoint? I am. Can you not see it, Peter? You can't see my PowerPoint? Can anybody else not see my PowerPoint? You can see it, Peter? No? Can someone else tell me? Mick, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah, I can. Perfect.
You
thanks.
can. Okay, all right, thanks very much. I'll keep going. So for me, it's about winning new friends, inspiring and influencing senior maritime people, regulators. We have a very strong relationship in the UK with the MCA. Clearly, we have a relationship with AMSA because 2 of their guys are online today. Thank you very much. And it's about trying to deliver effective communications. And it's fair to say, if I 10 years ago had tried to have a meaningful dialogue with a loss prevention director of a P&I club, I think they probably would have laughed me out of court. These days, I number a number of them as those type of guys as friends and people I can have a conversation with. So we've really pushed our exposure out. We are involved in all sorts of external involvements. We sit on various committees. British Standards Institute would be one example. We do sit on the MCA's technical forums. We've been involved in helping to put together the new Workboat 3 code, which some of you may have seen. We're also now working with the MCA on bringing together a new code for sport and pleasure under 24-meter vessels in the UK. And we are highly visible these days in the international marketplace, in my opinion. So here's Murrell's house. Delighted. I mean, One of the challenges was how we handled COVID. Of course, we all suffered with COVID and found it extremely difficult. Right at the outset of COVID, I made a decision to keep the whole team fully employed. We didn't actually furlough anybody, and it turned out to be absolutely the right decision. I'm not ashamed to say that COVID turned out to be a really positive thing for the business. We turned a lot of things online. We ran a huge range of online seminars. They became hugely, very popular. Right at the start of COVID, I had opened negotiations to acquire this building. It's a 500-year-old 7-bedroom mansion. That's what it was in its heyday. And we've always worked there for, well, always worked there. We worked there for 10 years. We were the tenants on the upstairs floor. Our landlord was downstairs, a firm of accountants. And we reached a deal for him to sell us the property. Right at the start of COVID, I wasn't sure that was really a good decision to make necessarily. I wasn't sure what the future looked like. I didn't know how the business was going to run through that time. And I said to the board, I'm really nervous about pressing on with this deal. And they said, do it, Mike, because you'll never get another chance. And I think that was sound advice, the right decision. And we love working there. It's a lovely piece of history. We've spent quite a lot of money on it. We spent about 150,000 British pounds over the last 2 or 3 years. All the windows you see there were completely rotten. Many of them hadn't been changed for about 150 years. So they had to be ripped out. It's grade 2 listed. That means we can't just do anything we want with the building. It all has to conform to grade 2 heritage building requirements. So the windows you see there were all handcrafted. They're not double glazed. We're not allowed double glazing. They were hand built for us in Portsmouth. So very proud to own that. It's a fabulous asset for the membership, and it's an appreciating asset for sure. One of my particular skill sets, I think, has been in digital, the digital side of the business, and we've worked tirelessly to digitize the business. It really is a paperless office, and I can't say that that was the case 10 years ago. You rarely now find any bit of paper in our office at all. Everything is online. It's in the cloud. It's stored somewhere. We don't have bits of paper floating around the office. We talked about artificial intelligence earlier. There's lots of different AI. We've used AI to move all of our forms into smart software systems. We use things like Jotforms. In fact, you all will have used Jotform to register for this event. We do all of our examinations now, our tests and so on. We use something called ClassMarker. That's all seamlessly set up, absolutely brilliant. We moved to zero accounting software. It's become much simpler. We use things like Stripe to pay. And interestingly, our bank very recently, when I met them, said, we are amazed to see how you have reduced your carbon footprint significantly. I have to say that never even entered my mind, really, that that's what we were doing. But the consequence of doing all of this is that we have significantly reduced our carbon footprint, which can only be a good thing. One of the things, I suppose, my key strengths has been a background in publishing and marketing, and I've certainly tried to bring that to the fore in IIMS. So we work on a pretty heavy communications strategy. In fact, I've just seen the mid-month communique has just popped into my inbox, so we released that this morning at 6 o'clock in UK time. But we have a monthly news bulletin. Some of you will have seen that. That's free for everybody to read. That's become quite a big beast now. Generally, that's 30 to 32 pages a month, delivered in PDF or e-reader formats. You can pick up back copies on the website, or if you're registered on our database, we'll send you a copy. Interestingly enough, that's read with 1,000 members. That is generally read and opened by about 7,500 to 8,000 people a month. So it's really, really gained over the last 18 months, 2 years in popularity. And in January of this year, I launched something called the Mid-Month Marine Communique, and that's what's been released this morning. It's just an email with links to links, really, trying to pick up podcasts. I had no idea that podcasts were so popular with marine surveyors. And I noticed we ran one 2 months ago on lithium-ion batteries, and that had something like 500 downloads, quite extraordinary. So you guys, I'll only deliver stuff that you really want to read. And what I find really interesting about all of these products and publications is we can monitor the data. I am a bit of a data fiend. So if I see that something is emerging as a trend, I'll try and find more of that to deliver back to the market. If you're not familiar with the IIMS website, IIMS.org.uk. It's an absolute mine of information. Astonishingly, we get about 15,000 unique visitors on average a month coming through the site. It's really, really busy site. There's something like 3,000 news stories on there, articles, features. And I was saying to Mika Bertie just before we went live earlier today, about 2.5 years ago, we put a PDF tracker onto the site just to monitor the number of PDFs that were being downloaded. And in the last 2.5 years, we've had 180,000 PDFs downloaded through the website. I find that's quite an astonishing figure. The Colregs is the one that's been most downloaded. I think we've had about 30,000 downloads of that. Who's downloading it? That I don't know. I can't gather data to tell me who's downloading it. But I'm always curious about some of the more obscure content that people are downloading. The Belize Yacht Registry or Registry Yacht Code, large yacht code was one that caught my eye the other days. 800 people have downloaded that. That's got to be pretty niche, I would have thought. We these days issue a whole range of international press releases. I have done some that are generic, but I'm starting increasingly now to work in individual markets. We've just done a campaign in Canada. We've done a campaign in the States as well. I'd like to do something in Australia. And sometimes that's also trying to reach out to the wider consumer, the public, the person who's going to go and buy a boat potentially, and say to them, you need to use a recognized marine surveyor. Don't just call anyone off the street. And that's been quite successful, and I'm looking to do more of that. Most of the marketing we do, in fact, all of the marketing we do now is below the line. You won't see IIMS advertising in magazines at all anymore. I use an agency down in Portsmouth, close to us. They are a digital agency, and they do some phenomenal work. So we use that to target potential students for our courses, and we also use it to target potential memberships as well. And I give them a monthly budget, and they go away and they plan it. My account manager, lovely guy called Henry, when I first met him, he had half orange hair, half blue hair. He was aged about 21, made me feel very old. And he's a Google data scientist is what he calls himself. And he knows how to manipulate the data, and it's very, very successful. One of the things I've increasingly felt it necessary for us to get involved with is tackling some pretty thorny subjects, and there are some interesting topics out there. This year alone, we've tackled lithium-ion battery fires. I won't shy away from that. There are some major, major challenges in that sector at the moment, and I think that situation is only going to get worse before it gets better. And I've written stuff on that. A lot of specialists have written presentations of that. We've given live presentations on it, and I would encourage you all to keep your mind very much focused on the challenges of lithium-ion battery fires. In the UK, we've had a particular battle on the minimum thickness of steel on UK narrowboats. The argument is 3 mil good enough? Should it be 4 mil? And insurers are now saying if your narrowboat, these are canal boats operating on the inland waterways in the UK, if your canal boat isn't 4 mil, we're not going to insure it. And that's caused a lot of angst for boat owners. So we're involved in a bit of a bun fight at the moment with some of the insurers over that. We've looked at some of the aspects of LPG gas installations. There are big challenges around that. There are also challenges around remote surveying. I was with a very senior guy from DNV yesterday, who DNV have done a lot of remote surveying, but he said to me, absolutely not the way to go. He still feels that as a surveyor, you need to get into an engine room, you need to sniff, smell, touch, feel, use all of those senses and experiences you've picked up over the years. Adam, yeah, pop in and say hello. Can you hear me, Adam? So you've raised your hand. I'll keep going. And of course, the opportunities and threats presented by AI technology, and Nick will give you a bit more background on that. Now, innovation. Any business has to innovate. If you don't innovate as a business, you surely will die. I've seen enough of that over my years in business to know that is absolutely the case. So we are constantly looking for new ways to drive productivity and use technology. There's lots of examples of that going on. And we are constantly evaluating and becoming and developing tangible new member benefits. It's changed immeasurably over the last few years. Some of you may know we have developed 4 apps over the years. As far as I know, we're the only marine surveying organization who's done that. We've invested quite substantially in that. The Marine Surveyor Search app has been downloaded about 4,000 times now. It is used quite regularly, and that's for anybody who's looking for a surveyor. You do need to be a member to be featured on there. Peter referenced the CPD app. That's also a really nice, neat little product. And I'm looking at other ways to engage in the app market. Let me just pick up that chat question. Adam says, when you say remote, do you mean using VR? Yeah, I think, Adam, no, not so much VR. I think VR is another interesting development. I think when COVID came along, clearly it was not so easy to get onto a ship, and people were simply asking somebody at the other end of the phone line, here's my mobile, stick my mobile in that hole. I'm a surveyor 5,000, 2,000, 1,000 miles away. I then have to note what I see from that camera. I don't think anybody was awfully happy with that, and I think that is still a big challenge. We have launched some WhatsApp groups. We do have one in Australia. It's not as well used as, frankly, it should be. What we found with WhatsApp groups is we're trying to be niche. I think we've now got 30 WhatsApp groups around the world. We have an interesting one, again, going back to the UK inland waterways market. We've only got 12 members actually on that group. They are chattering every day. They'll post a photograph sometimes, and somebody will say, I've been surveying for 30 years, I've never seen this. And then within 5 minutes, somebody says, I know what that is, and chit chat, chit chat. So very happy to expand our WhatsApp groups and do more. Now, driving standards is something that I've become really passionate about. We don't make it easy to join IIMS. We have a professional assessment committee under the chairmanship of Captain Chris Kelly. We are fussy about who joins us, and I really do believe that we are only as strong as our weakest member. So we do put people through, a bit of a challenge, and we don't make it easy. We do encourage those and reward those who undertake CPD. And certainly in the UK, I worked for 5 years as the chair of the Professional Standards Working Group, sitting within the MCA. That was an unpaid role. And we spent 5 years trying to push the bar up so that all of the certifying authorities in the UK, there's 5 of us who are coding vessels up to 24 meters commercially, are working to a similar standard. That is a piece of work that's not quite complete, but we've certainly made big strides. So for me, it's about trying to raise the standards internationally across the board. And Peter referenced my trip to Bangladesh. It is worth just sticking with that for a minute. I'm flying out there tonight. I'm the guest of honor on Saturday at the 30th anniversary of the Marine Surveying Association of Bangladesh's celebrity event, and I'll be giving a presentation there. They have had constant challenges. If you're familiar with that part of the world, they do lose a lot of vessels. There's some big challenges. The surveying profession, as it is in many parts of the world, of course, very unregulated. And we are working with the Bangladeshi government. I do have a side meeting with the Director General there, and it looks like they are going to underwrite our professional course material, education material, and that'll be delivered in classroom into Bangladeshi for you to become a surveyor. So I'm quite excited about that. Practical and theory training, we deliver these days. Everything is hybrid now. You guys are online. Mick and I were talking earlier. It's not the best way ever to do this. It just isn't, but it is a good way nevertheless to disseminate information. You don't get the networking opportunities that you get face-to-face. Peter talked about our conference earlier in the year, and he's absolutely right. We had a really strong networking 2 days going on, and that is what you don't get online. I would absolutely like to come to Australia next year as I celebrate my 10th anniversary. I'd like to do a trip to the Far East as well. So Mick, if you're listening, Nick, James, if you're around, we'd like to facilitate that probably, and I'd like to come over perhaps to Brisbane again. The last event we did there seems like forever ago now. It's probably 4 years ago. Was hugely successful, and I think it would be good to try and plan a face-to-face event. We are launching in the UK our first practical surveying course. We wanted to test the market with that. I've got at the moment 10 surveyors booked onto that in November. We're going to take them to the Boat Building Academy on the south coast of England. There will be 3 very experienced marine surveyors there, and they are going to work 4 days. It's a residential course, and they are going to look top to bottom on boats. They'll probably look at certainly 2 and maybe 3. And their test at the end of that will be to write a report, and that's what we will critique them on. We are running bespoke training courses. Peter has launched a very successful program on shipbuilding called the Shipbuilding Acquaint course. Run it a couple of times, subject to demand. I know Peter will definitely want to run that again. Professional qualifications. Our 35 module distance learning program is an award-winning program. Actually, we've currently got over 200 students studying. We're constantly reviewing those 35 modules. Things are changing so fast. We have got to keep an eye on all of that content. We did spend a considerable sum of money at the start of last year to develop a new app, a bespoke student portal. I have to say it took 2 years to build and deliver. It is an extremely neat product. The feedback from students has been very, very encouraging. We do have some top-notch tutors and assessors. They're absolutely top of their game. And I'd also like to reference the professional qualification in marine corrosion, which we launched a couple of years ago. We've had about 30 people come through that. That is going to move to an on-demand course, probably by the end of this year. 10 modules. It's not an expensive course to do. You do get a formal qualification at the end of it. And it's a really, really in-depth course on marine corrosion. Touching on the report magazine, I never thought for 1 minute I would ever be nominated as editor of the year, but I found myself nominated in a specialist category in the British Society of Magazine Editors at the end of last year. I didn't win, but I was nominated. And I have to say it's the favourite part of my job, producing this, what is now a pretty weighty tome. The current issue is 140 pages. Comes out quarterly. Thank you to all of those who contribute. Nick Parkin, you've written quite extensively for it. It is a vehicle for you to write for, but it's also a vehicle for me to use to push out quality content to you. Again, free for everybody to read. It used to be printed in the old days and sent out to people who couldn't possibly afford to do that. Now it's just far too heavy and there's too many people to send it to. And not forgetting a new publication we launched a couple of years ago, the Safety and Loss Prevention Briefings Compendium. That's not a happy publication. It's full of disasters, incident, accidents. Comes out at the end of the year. Last year was 160 pages. I was hoping this year's might be a bit smaller because there were less disasters at sea. Sadly, that is not the case. And I'm working on that now. That'll be coming out again this year. Again, free for everybody to have a look at. They're high quality publications. They're read and enjoyed by thousands. Somebody said to me, how many people read? I don't know is the answer, but I can see how many people download the publication, the report particularly, and I would estimate the readership to be in excess of 10,000 a quarter. So final slide, not yet a member. This isn't really a heavy sell. If you'd like to know more, if you're watching this and you're not part of IIMS, then please do consider making an application. We really would welcome it. You're a professional, marine surveying is not a game for amateurs. You're professionals of what you do. And if you choose to associate yourself with IIMS, I think we are increasingly recognised the world over. We certainly have inroads now with vessel owners, P&I clubs, underwriters. We're talking to them all the time. And you're demonstrating your professionalism and so on. Right, thank you. And if you wonder where that beautiful, beautiful yacht was taken, I was lucky enough to go to the Monaco Yacht Show last year. I'm a keen photographer, as some of you know, and this beauty was just there in front of me. I could not resist taking the photo. Don't know who owns it, but it was an absolutely beautiful thing. So thank you all very much. Thank you for your patience. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody wants to ask anything. Otherwise, conscious of time, we probably need to crack on.